whatever milestones that Black people make against hate, it ends up benefiting all the other people of color. I can't see what his end game is. The Republican Party is the party of racism, is the party of white supremacy, is the party of hate. This is wrong, and it needs to stop.
Everybody wants to go back and drag that piece of history up, but they don't want to go back and deal with what their ancestors did to the indigenous people and to Black people in this country. You got to go. And you got billionaires talking about going to space and Jeff Bezos. Go! Never come back. I hope you get lost. This man has lost his mind.
Boom! Come on, girlfriend! What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the Ordering Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, I host the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And I am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia not-for-profit that highlights and focuses on Blacks in the diaspora. They're doing their thing in food, wine, and travel. And again, we are broadcasting live. It's a Saturday night, October 23rd. Getting chilly here in Toronto. Fall has actually hit, but we don't care how cold it is because Aisha and Jill are going to bring the heat. So let's welcome Aisha Jill, State of Things. What's going on, ladies?
Hey there.
Hey.
How's your week? How's your week been?
Oh, interesting. It's been good. How's yours?
Mine has been fine. Like I said, yeah, it's gotten a little bit cooler. Actually, I stopped by a neighbor's birthday party. She was 83 years old.
Oh, wow.
And had come into the room, and there was a bunch of people her age. They were all singing. She's part of a choir, so they're doing some singing and things like that. I hung out with her daughter. Her daughter and I are a few years apart age-wise. Some other neighbors came by, so we had a great time.
That's so cool. 83. Yeah. God bless her.
Yeah. Well, and believe it or not, her daughter told me there's some admirers of hers there, men. And like one guy's 68, another one's 71. So I'm going, okay, so I started calling this lady. So I'm not going to call you the it girl. And she just smiled. She had a good time. She was having her glass of red wine and just smiling and laughing. Yeah, she was having a ball. So it was really, really good stuff. Really enjoyed the conversation. But now it's your lady's time. So we're looking forward to tonight's conversation. And you know what? We're going to do something interesting tonight, folks. We forgot, was it last week, to have a cockroach. So we're going to put it out right here, right now, folks. Who do you think is the cockroach for this episode? So by the time we get to the end of the conversation, if you're watching live, type your nominees into your comments section, and we'll pick one, and we'll say so-and-so has nominated the cockroach of the week, and Jill and Aisha will address the cockroach in
the room.
In real time.
As long as you don't name me the cockroach, I'll be okay.
None of us.
What happens when you turn on the lights? They all go scattering everywhere.
Yes. We've been turning on lights, right?
Yeah. So definitely, and as always, we say, hey, Jen Myers, great to see you. And anyone else, let's make sure that you say hello if you're watching live. So, folks, we're going to take a look at our first conversation piece. And I think it's good we haven't talked about it till now, but certainly it's been in the news for the last week. The whole issue of Dave Chappelle and Netflix. So who wants to start off on that conversation piece?
You go, Aisha.
Well, I have to admit, I haven't seen the Netflix special. And so I don't exactly know what the comments are. I know that he compared trans women to impossible meet. I do know that much. I heard that part. But it's my best friend, I'm at her house right now. We had a conversation earlier and she was like, comedians aren't really supposed to be politically correct. They're supposed to be comedians and give commentary. But then you have to ask the question, at what point does comedy become offensive? And I think that's the idea here. Now, about the Netflix workers walking out, is Netflix wrong for just digging their heels in and saying, okay, we're going to keep the special? I just really I'm still trying to get a grasp on the whole issue because there's like so many moving parts to it.
Okay, well, I saw the special and I know you're asking the question about what did you say? Like, at what point does comedy cross the line or should it be censored? I mean, I grew up in an era where my family listened to Richard Pryor records, went to see him. There were people even before that, Moms Mabley was incredibly filthy dirty on her albums. I think that if you can't laugh at yourself about anything or find some humor in some of it or something, then maybe not that comedy, but don't forget Eddie Murphy was talking about Goonie Goo Goo, things like that. And it's really how people take it on anything. You could write a song about a sewing kit, and it depends on how it's received and into what brain absorbs it and knows that there's a boundary on this. The question is, have we reached a point in our society where people don't know that it's entertainment and it's a boundary and you don't go out and act out on these, they're trying to accuse Dave Chappelle of like inciting more violence against women, trans women and trans people. And forgive me if I am offending anyone by not using the right pronouns or any of that. I don't know enough of it. And somebody needs to put out a pamphlet for us because I really am, I was making a kind of a weird thing. I was talking to someone in German today and the pronoun thing came up and I honestly was like, it took me forever to try to even memorize all these freaking verbs in German, let alone trying to figure out now what I'm going to do with, because, it's so gender specific in a lot of the Italian, French,
Latin languages,
German,
yes.
Latin languages are very gender specific. So it's like really relearning. And I'm freaking 59 years old. It's like, give me a break. Cut me some slack, please. I don't mean to offend. But I also don't really believe in censorship. I think that Netflix has had a lot of things on their shows that people get triggered by. And I think before it gets to the level where it's put on the actual platform is where the decisions have to be made about what they're willing to purchase and buy and air. I don't really feel that just throwing something out there and, this is a forum where there's all types of people in the world and they relate to different things. It just is kind of a form of censorship. We've even watched videos with white supremacists doing their own documentaries and showing how they feel about something. And I just don't feel, I think it's a slippery slope. I may not like it, but it's not, for me to go and try to prevent people from sharing their voice. Because on one level, I do believe that we have to listen a little bit to what's being said, both sides, all sides. And what's so crazy for me is that a lot of what we're seeing online is a lot of histrionics or a lot of outbursts that sometimes they're genuine and sometimes they're disingenuous. Let me get this attention or this acclaim, or let me try to fight for this. And I mean, they even went after Margaret Atwood today from the trans community who are protesting because she's very concerned about one of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's writings was edited, and they changed the whole setting of where it was that women it was a law about abortions and women who have abortions. Well, they don't say women anymore. They say people or persons. And now in certain hospitals, they're calling them birthing people. And that's been sort of co-signed by the Biden administration and the progressive women, that now you don't say women menstruating, you say menstruating people. I think that it's a little hard, all this, for a lot of people to get their heads around, older people as well. And I think that anytime you're pushing forth some kind of change, that you need to, sometimes your elderly great grandmother's not going to get it, and maybe she will, but I don't think aggression is the means for it, or to take out Dave Chappelle's story, because his story is his journey. And if you have another journey, then make a movie, go do it. It's not that, he I don't like the fact that Joe Rogan is opening for him in New Orleans, but it's not my place. And I think that's the thing. We got to there's a little bit of decorum here that we have to get back to the place. It's not my place. Don't go. Don't put your money into it. Don't invest in it. But we are all going on these places to manipulate an outcome. And with that, it can be quite dangerous, because, he had his experience with his trans friend who ultimately they found a make peace moment. And sadly, that individual went and took their own life. Dave spoke about that, how that affected him. He made jokes that were completely blue and dark, and you're like, oh my gosh. But he said that his friend would have appreciated it. He spoke up about, where was the trans community when they dragged this person online for defending Dave for days and days and days. And 6 days later, after getting dragged for defending Dave Chappelle, went and jumped off of a roof. And so Dave has created a trust fund for the child that this person had. And, like he said, his community is to comedians first. And she was a comedian, this person. And so for him, he's clearly struggling with it. I don't think the people are trying to understand where someone's coming from. He's struggling with it. He's struggling with his obsession, maybe a little bit with trans. He had a thing about trans women tricking men. Now, I don't know the depth of that, but, we know that it's happened. I know there were 3 cases in New York where that was claimed to have happened. I don't know completely, but I think it's a fear. I think a lot of people operate from fear of things they don't understand. So for me personally, I just think people work things out through their art and their creativity. And I just don't believe in censoring. I didn't mean to blab on like that, but I don't believe that. I look at somebody with empathy. So it's very difficult for me to see an art piece turned into, really, there were people that, put poop all over Jesus, and it was offensive to many people. I still feel that people should be able to express their art.
I think that this is the problem that I have with people. You give people an inch, they'll take a mile. And so we're on the dawn of Halloween. Mm-hmm. So, it's like, well, Dave Chappelle, he makes jokes. He made a joke. So what happens when we see the white people in blackface saying, oh, it was just a joke. I was just kidding. It's kind of like, where do you draw that line so that people know this is not a joke versus someone who's making jokes about something. Now, like you said, he was talking about his experience. That's one thing. The other part of it is when I think freedom of speech is not free of consequences. So the consequence of you speaking up is that people may take offense to it, and they may react, in ways that you don't anticipate. Me personally, I think Netflix actually is embroiled in this drama and likes it, because all it does is really hype up the show and make more people want to see it, and it's a money thing for them. I don't think there's anything else to it when it comes to Netflix itself. Dave Chappelle, like I said, and like you said, it was his personal experience. But I think we live in a society where people are just plain old stupid, and they take things and they run with them, and they make excuses for, well, Columbine made me do this. Well, how did that make you shoot up your school? It's like people don't know where to draw the line between reality and make believe anymore, and things kind of merge, and just it's very detrimental to society that way. But again, is that Dave Chappelle's fault? No, it's not Dave Chappelle's fault. That's the fact that the human condition as it stands right now is really, really fragile. People are fragile. People aren't using their brains the way that they should be using them to think for themselves and think through these issues themselves, and think, okay, this is his job. He's a comedian, but in real life, how does this operate?
Yeah, but I mean, there was one part where, his basic reluctance to bend for the LGBTQ community, as he said, he's amazed at how they have organized and how incredibly organized they are, and what they've accomplished. It impresses him. And if Black people's movement had have been even a 10th organized, where did that organization come from? Well, we know it wasn't people of color in the LGBTQ that created that strong
power base.
Strong power base. You're
Yep.
looking at the Harvey Milk base. You're going all the way back of money, of where you can fracture it off into, people who acquired money because of systemic racism, and they were able to do that. But Black folks weren't able to do that. We didn't have that. Remember, they burnt down our communities where we had a foundation of money, where we had old money. We don't have it. They do. Now, some people miss those parts because they're so busy being outraged. But it's really true. For Black men at this time, where they have targets literally on their backs every damn day in America, and it has not stopped.
In Canada too.
In Canada.
And maybe around the world. Let me just maybe put it that way, just maybe around the world.
Yeah.
Might it not be just a little difficult for them to want to get and jumpstart in another organization, let's try to get you your rights, when most Black people really don't have any here? That was his point. And it was kind of his point in there. And even though I might not agree with that, what I can say is it was definitely a topic of conversation that needs to be discussed, because we need solutions on these things. We need solutions for the fact that women are not even paid an equal pay, right, with men. We can date that all the way back to when women started to go into the workforce, and a lot of their own oppressors were wives sitting at home while their husbands were working with women in the workplace. But the issue is, here we are, and we are now being, shape-shifted where the culture, it's culture wars versus the quality of work people are doing, how good they're doing it. And, and everybody, and this whole thing, it's a lot to ask. It's a lot to, as soon as you go, wow, well, I just read something really horrifying that on the film Rust, I don't know if it's true, they wanted to fire the girl who was the prop master. One of the reasons they didn't fire this 24-year-old who'd never worked on a film but one before was because they didn't want diversity issues. Because the man they wanted to hire was cisgendered, young, white, whatever. They didn't want that. So the culture wars got, if that's true, then we sometimes are letting these culture wars overshadow somebody who, if you fire them, you're like, job. It had nothing to do with your color, your gender, your nothing, what you do. End of story. But you can't even say that. So don't tell me that a lot of us don't feel that way. We tiptoe around, and people like me suddenly just don't want to talk about it. Just don't even want to deal with it, because there's got to be a better way to talk to people. And what's happening at Netflix, people running out in the streets, aren't we all a little done with that? Aren't we tired of it? Screaming and yelling, being aggressive with people on the street. I don't think that's the way to get people's attention. Everybody's now ruined protesting because they're so freaking hostile. And I get you're upset, but this is not the way. It's just not the way. Because, I've made comments before about even the VMAs, where you have celebrities who are straight with the pornification of the gay lifestyle, falling all over each other, two women, just to exploit it. We have gotten to the place where we exploit something to our own advantages. You got Joe Rogan going after Dr. Fauci today about experiments on dogs. And Joe Rogan's big self goes and kills elk, eats animals, and you're going to get people all riled up over puppies today? I mean, we don't know where everybody's coming from. And I don't even know who half these people are online anymore. And who's paying them, what's their agenda, what's the deal. So we have a lot more to worry about than Dave Chappelle upsetting the community, because what they do is they just give him more power, and they give the people that follow him for the wrong reasons more power, because he wasn't saying go hurt trans people. He was just saying, if you can see my side, I can see your side. Can we find a happy medium?
Well, you say Dave Chappelle's name 5 times, and out comes Lil Boosie talking about Lil Nas X.
I don't know who Little Boosie is. Did we talk about him once before? What is that?
Yeah, he's suspended off of Twitter now because of a rant that he went on that was really, really homophobic, and really it was just out there. But I think with the culture wars, the way that they are is people are using them to make a political point. People are using them to change how we educate people in this country. They're using them for how we employ people. They're using them for things that they just should not be used for anymore. When people decide to politicize the culture, that became our problem. That's where the problem lies. And when people try to politicize it too much. Now, where I think with Dave Chappelle, I think people coming out and saying and expressing how they feel, he was one who could sit and say, okay, I can see your side. He was willing to have the conversation. The problem comes when you have someone who is like a Joe Rogan, who's not willing to come to the table and talk and see both sides. So that's one of the challenges that you have. I think that I think this issue here is going to be one that's going to continue, because we're going to see other things happening. For example, I mean, is this the worst that is going to be said about trans people in film or television?
What role does cancel culture have in all of this?
They don't cancel because they keep talking about people. It's just to say they canceled you, but they didn't cancel anything. They keep resurrecting what they canceled. It's like, if you didn't like it once, what makes you want to go back and look at it again? But you can't tell me what I can't listen to or what I can't watch, because all he has to do is create a special network, and we can all subscribe to it, and we can all still see it. You're not going to get your way. And you're not going to make something disappear. Just because I don't like the Ku Klux Klan doesn't mean that they went away. You know, we tried that in this country. It doesn't work. There has to be, you know, and everybody's so PC. Every newscaster, no one wants to really touch on certain subjects that are offensive. People may have an issue with certain aspects of your lifestyle. Mine too, you know, but it doesn't mean that they're worth throwing out the whole bathwater with the baby. There are things that you might have to make clear to other people. There are still people who are not clear on, you know, sports and trans young men and women. They don't know, but it doesn't mean to. It's an actual discussion, and both sides need to agree to come together and have a discussion. But as long as they uproot and destroy science, then we'll never really get to that point unless we just have a separation in society altogether. And you know, and that's really what's happening. But it literally is like the Tower of Babel fell and everybody is running around and speaking in tongues and doesn't understand what another person is saying. Because what's so crazy about it is where one person's oppression is another person's victory or whatever. Everybody, I could put all these different groups in a room and tell them one thing and that they all agreed on. Yes, we can't stand Donald Trump. Hate him. But the minute I start bringing in other elements of different cultural things, they'll all be eating each other at the end of the night over something else. It could be because the liberal left will go a little too freaking far. And then it turns into, well, I don't think all the kids should have ice cream, or because my kid has, you know, then it just goes too damn far where it is so restrictive. It does keep making the whole country have to, you know, I don't know. There's no balance. They're not finding balance in this.
I think what's interesting too was during this past week, the co-CEO of Netflix basically was trying to backtrack a little bit, saying that, you know what, probably should have used better judgment. So I'm going to say now, what's the future? See, Dave Chappelle is very smart. Like he's a very smart individual. He's not your average comedian, and he knows that. Didn't he leave Comedy Central to come to Netflix, if I'm not mistaken?
Well, he left Comedy Central
a long time ago.
He left them a long time ago, a $60 million deal, just because he just didn't want to do it anymore.
Right.
And he didn't like the terms that they were trying to get into confined to. But I think you know, going to Netflix was a good deal for him. It ended up being a much better deal, much more feasible for him and with his family, and wanting to take that time, because the Chappelle Show was taking up a lot of his time that he was saying was taking away from his family. And it was like, he said it was really doing a number on his sanity.
Right.
Do we think that Netflix will want to part ways, or will try to? I almost see that the next thing Dave Chappelle wants to do, if Netflix says, well, I don't know, he can just leave them again, because he's in a position of power.
He's not doing anything else for them. This was his final deal with them.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, he's
it was called the closer.
He's definitely a provocateur, and he knows how to straddle the fence. We're not still 100%. I mean, he arouses conversation, and I think that's not a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that I don't think so. I mean, at all. I think we have to learn how to live with each other.
So, Jill, let me ask you an interesting question. Say there was a prominent white comedian, and they did the same sort of context in their referral to blacks.
Mm-hmm.
Would it garner, do you feel this? Well, what would your reaction be of all of us being black? And again, well, I'll use that as the first question. I have another question on top of that, but do you feel
they were saying jokes like he's going to be late because he's black?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm okay with that because we say it. I'm not cool with the N-word, But I'm not, I don't believe in that, because I got to say, I have some issues in our own group of people with accountability
But
that we're not dealing with.
But I think that and I guess this is probably where the trans community is, because you raised that question. My question always is, where is this coming from with that person? Is it something that, are they just making a joke, or is it coming from something deep down in them that they really, that they really feel? And that's the question, I think, that usually you have to ask when when something is said, or that seems so outrageous. When you have to look at the source, and then you have to wonder, where is it coming from? I think.
Yeah, but it's comedy. It's like, if it's going to make me laugh because that's a truth. Laughter inside yourself is a truth. It is something you recognize immediately. It's visceral. If you sit up and laugh at something, or you're going to go, that's not, then those things, you should go by your judgment of yourself. But like I said, if people can't laugh at certain things, look, about themselves, we got a really horrible world coming up. There has to be a way that you can take the piss out of yourself. And but there will always be people around. Why do we care so about what everybody else thinks? Why?
But here's an example. Clint Eastwood thought he was being funny doing the joke with the chair and Obama. He thought he was being funny, when deep down he was being racist, and he was being facetious. So the question, like I said, the question is, where is it coming from in the person who's delivering it? You want to know what their motivation is, and if there's anything else behind it.
Well, then, you know what? Then I guess then I'm just not going to laugh. But I will say, then we shouldn't have any comedy. We shouldn't have any performers. I think that if you can't take in everybody on the planet, all races, all shades, and stop for a second and try to have an olive branch moment from both sides, we're doomed. We're doomed.
But
we are doomed.
I think the most important part with this was that,
and then we get to cherry pick which people are the select few that can make these comments. Because I'll tell you, you're not stopping anything. You're not stopping it, because that means it just goes home, and everybody's so pent up that they didn't get a chance to express it. I've seen kids who have been all different races get along so well. They have their own jargon with each other. That's what they do. But you bring in somebody else to go, that wasn't right, and that's racist, and that's that. Right now, it's like, I can't even say, damn, there were a lot of people at Rikers the other night that they didn't put them all in the same, they put them all in the same cell. Okay, well, damn, we've talked about systemic racism for a while, but are we really going to address the fact that we do have a lot of crime in our neighborhoods? Are we really going to ever deal with that? Because we don't. We make excuses for it. And I'm sick of defending and fighting for everybody's. And then there they are. There it is again. Oh, but they didn't have anything. Their great grandmother didn't, she was a slave. It's time. Everybody's got to come clean, come straight, and just be like, okay, we're here. This is wrong. And this is not acceptable. But the way the media and the marketing and all of this is shifting it, it's making people just walk away like they're blameless, just above it all. Oh, not me. Yeah, I stole that car. We have car chases every day in Los Angeles, sometimes 6 and 7. And I'm sorry to say, the majority who are actually caught in the car, they're usually Black. Now, I know somebody's going to get pissed off with me, but unfortunately, it's true. So until I can go a whole month without it, then we talk. But you've got to understand the anger on both sides. It's just everywhere.
Okay.
You make too many excuses, creating a bunch of enabled people. They're fighting really hard to get justice from the police. And then it's like, it's just It's like people set you back.
Okay. We're going to move on to another conversation topic. I think that one day we're going to have, I know we brought it up before on the program, that we should talk about the whole thing about what's it, media and media restriction, freedom of speech. I think that we've chatted about this for a while just with this whole section on cancel culture. I think we may need to just do one conversation on cancel culture and the media. I think that would be a good conversation topic. So we're broadcasting live October 23rd, and we're asking our audience, which there's a number of people watching, audience, who do you think who's the cockroach is for this episode? So we normally at the end of each episode have the cockroach of the week or cockroach of the week. We do have someone that's already nominated somebody, so I'd love to take some more nominations so we can make a decision, but we've got one in already. So let's do our next conversation piece. In a major shift, the NIH admits funding risky virus research in Wuhan. Didn't know about this one till today. Jill told me about what is this going on about this?
Aisha is the expert on gain of research because we spoke about it in the middle of the week, and she kind of briefed me on how this played out, actually.
Yeah, we have to remember that Dr. Fauci was not head of the NIH, okay? And that this research they're talking about occurred in 2019. That was under the Trump administration. So the Trump administration gave NIH the money to fund the research in Wuhan, the coronavirus research. So while you have Rand Paul and all these Republicans coming out, Matt Gaetz talking about this and that, and Jim Jordan pitching a fit, the fact of the matter is that it was their leader who appropriated those dollars, gave those dollars to the NIH to do this kind of research. It was not Dr. Fauci. When Dr. Fauci testified before Congress and they asked about this, he answered what the information that he had. The information he had was that, no, we're not doing this to the best of his knowledge. And the fact of the matter is that he tried very, very hard to be as honest as he could the entire time that Trump was in office. So he was being above board. What Trump wasn't doing was being honest. The NIH under Trump was not being honest. Because remember when the first thing happened with the coronavirus, and it first started, was in 2019 in Wuhan. And people were trying to figure out how they fund this research. Where did they get this from the research? Apparently, they got it from us. And it makes you start to wonder all kinds of things because remember, Trump immediately after they started talking about coronavirus, before it even got here, they hit him and Jarrett and all of them were buying up all of these they were buying up all the PPE. They were buying up all these possible
trademarks,
and
the coffin trademark,
and trademarking things,
ventilators.
Exactly. They were storing all of these things because why? They intended to make money off of it. That's the bottom line. So Dr. Fauci is the shiny red object they want you to look at. The truth that they don't want you to get to is when this happened, under whose watch it happened, and that the result ended up in a global pandemic.
True.
Well, and before Jill speaks to, it's all about follow the money again. And I listened to a report this week that the commentator was doing a little expose on the stock or the companies that members of Congress own shares in. Guess what is in the top 5? What company? What medical? What pharmaceutical? Pfizer is the 5th most held stock by members of Congress and the Senate. I went, oh boy.
Pfizer also has ivermectin, by the way. I believe it's Pfizer and Merck joined somehow.
And this is why they want to pull that part of the infrastructure bill that Joe Biden has that would help with the medical costs. They don't want, that's one of the things that they're strongly against. You would think that in a country where it costs like thousands and thousands of dollars just to pay for something like insulin versus you can go to Canada and it's not as expensive, you would think that in this country where we have a serious type 2 diabetes problem, that they would try to make it as affordable as possible to everyone. But not as long as those politicians have stock in it, they're getting their money.
Same with the EpiPen, because from
yes.
experience, direct. Joe
Yes, we
Manchin's
talked
daughter.
about this many times. It's like when the price of the EpiPen went up, I got very scared because they were not only
was $550 something dollars.
And
yeah,
then,
and
what?
I remember you telling
for EpiPen, and then
Yes, I remember you mentioned that.
Yes,
that's crazy.
And then they weren't making any additional ones.
Right. The schools didn't even have but like 2 or 1. You told me. I remember her going through this.
Jill and I had this conversation, and I was down to 1 EpiPen, and I was like searching and searching and searching for. I'm like, I keep going to different pharmacies, and every last one tells me they don't have an EpiPen. It's like, God forbid I have some kind of reaction and I have to use it, because the next reaction, that's it. There's nothing.
True.
Wow.
And so the NIH funds a lot of things, and I think because they fund so much research, that it was easy to kind of kick this under the carpet. You have to ask the question, why now? Why now is the NIH coming forward and saying all of this?
And then they backtrack some of this too.
And then they backtrack some of it too, because it's like I said, it's to create confusion. It's to create confusion. And now you've done that, and the right, they take it, and now they've politicized the whole thing. Right. Because one of the articles that I saw, I think it was Jill was asking about the article. The article comes from a fake news publication, and they've written this up about Dr. Fauci and the NIH as if it's real news. And they just threw in a bunch of stuff in there. It's like they threw in everything but the kitchen sink.
And it trended like huge. And it was full of
You're
bots.
kidding.
Full of bots were everywhere. There were so many bots, like outrage. Oh my God. Rand Paul was fueling it, because I could see
put Dr. Fauci in jail.
These are really dangerous times. These are times that, Rand Paul basically is a spoiled brat. And remember when Fauci responded to him? Well, now we see how Rand Paul retaliated. He didn't get over that day when Fauci read him. No. So then they must have called out every Kentuckian who has an internet and isn't rubbing sticks together and trying to figure out how to type to tweet that day. Then they called in a few coal miners to start sending out some smoke signals to the rest of them for Joe Manchin.
Paul did what Donald Trump did
it's a joke. Time. They're another one, because this is where I keep saying what we're seeing online is very disingenuous. And I honestly always believe that if the right powers ever really got a chance to really communicate, you'd see where really the people are kind of on the same page, but they keep us outraged with this nonsense. Truth is, I have always felt, and I do feel, that something is going to come out about COVID maybe next year. I just feel that we don't even know the half of what the Trump administration's involvement was in this. I have to tell you, because remember those 2 guys that were stopped in Florida for conspiracy to take a virus out? There were 2 men that either got stopped or they got let go and they went back to China. They have a thing called the 1,000 Talents, and there was an investigation into this where all of these Asian researchers who'd been over here suddenly started going back to China and leaving. And there was some accusation that some took back some information or brought some here. I don't recall everything, but all of these things were not just, stories. They're connected somehow. We're missing a few threads here, but they're now all starting to come out. And when, like Aisha said to me the other day about this NIH thing, She goes, what else is going on for this to be trending? When with the Republicans and it's a Friday, she goes, what shoe is about to drop on them that they're already trying to stir up and get everyone's brains somewhere else? And they're on Fauci hard. Today they've got him like killing puppies. I mean, he's freaking, Cruella de Vil today. So what is happening that they're laying in? And it's not, they're pushing for some kind of momentum, because the reality is, what does he know? Remember, he was hired by Donald Trump, and I feel he might have been hired as a patsy. That
Dr.
they
Fauci?
always knew, that
Dr.
they hired
Fauci
him.
was originally hired by Barack Obama and moved to that other organization.
But when he brought him on with the woman with the scarves, I believe that he was kind of set up as a patsy, and they always knew, that they could always, because they kind of ground him down anyway at the beginning. At 1 minute he was saying, don't wear masks. I believe a lot of that came from trying to respect the president's wishes. Let's not create fear and panic. And that was his leader, the commander in chief. That is our president. But then in the middle of it, it seemed like Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx started being like, oh my God, we're in hell. And we can't forget that those were things that were happening, and the little ways they try to eke out that, all the faces that he was making behind Trump. And I don't think that Trump let go of that. I think that there's still, because of Fauci's professionalism, I do believe there's information he still knows about things, seriously, that he won't say. Just for everybody else who gets close to Donald Trump, they don't say nothing. It's like there's a hit out on your whole freaking family or something. It's very, very weird. It's like Merrick Garland has that vibe too. Like, did somebody contact you? Like something up, because you don't seem straight. So, there is just that feeling for me that Trump's involvement and his party, and Pompeo had met with the Chinese before COVID kind of broke. It's just too weird. Those are the dots that are actually quite fascinating. And I just believe that they're fighting too hard to defend, to create other crap, as Aisha said. They're fighting way too hard.
It's easy to get their people on board that quick, because the NIH is not the organization Dr. Fauci was. It was the NIAID.
NIAID.
Yeah. So if they look at it real quick, it's like, oh, they don't know the vegetable soup here, the alphabet soup. They're not thinking about it. They just see the NI, and that's Dr. Fauci.
Right.
The NIH, just so people are clear, they fund medical research. The CDC actually does the actual, they do a lot of the actual research. They do the testing, they do the tracking and the tracing.
And he fired all of them, remember.
And Dr. Fauci, his organization was closer to the CDC rather than the NIH. And so here's the thing. If the NIH had granted funding, Dr. Fauci was not in charge of that study. He would not have known. The person that would have known would have been the secretary of the NIH. Right. And that person was appointed by Donald Trump.
Yes, because remember, he fired everybody and he got rid of 700 people with the CDC before COVID broke out. So for me, it's like, if you see somebody like...
The Surgeon General knew.
Yeah, if you have somebody in your office, let's say, and they keep bringing like a big old bag to work, and then, a couple months, and then all of a sudden they break out and they leave, and you're like, damn, they took the computer and everything's gone. They've been stealing like over these periods of months. So for me, that's what all that was, because Donald Trump also never staffed the White House completely. And the reason that he didn't is because those other positions were the checks and balances that would have alerted another system and another system and another department, because he totally unraveled them.
Well, what was the first thing he got rid of? He got rid of the Office of Pandemic.
Yes, that's of 700 people.
He got rid of that entire office that was in the Oval Office. It was part of the Oval Office. He got rid of that entire part, which means he was able to control the money that was appropriated to them. and how it got spent and where it went to. Because they started talking about coronavirus in 2019, and they called it novel coronavirus at the time, which meant it was a new virus. That's what novel coronavirus basically means. It's a new virus.
Okay.
And so I don't think they intended for it to get out of the labs, but somehow you got to remember, think about how contagious coronavirus is, right? And how easy it is to catch, even if you're vaccinated. So the people working with this were probably the first people getting it, and then going home, going out in public. This is starting, and it's starting to spread. And remember, we have researchers who were in the Wuhan labs, facilities doing research, and they're coming back and forth. And so this is something that got out of hand, like everything with Donald Trump. He puts his hands in something, his little tiny little man hands into something, and then it goes.
It's true, because we did have a lot of deaths that just sort of, he didn't close the borders, and we know that. But
and remember, he always wants people to say, I closed the border to China. Why'd you close the border to just China if this is a global thing? What do you know that we don't know? Like I said, Dr. Fauci, flashy little red object. There's something else there's something else underneath all of this that is going to come out. And as long as they can build up the with their people, the disbelief, it's the big lie part 2. Okay, this is what we're doing now. As long as they can give them another big lie, when the truth actually comes out, they know their people won't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, the first deaths were February 2nd, so that Trump had been
that we know of,
and that he'd been briefed on this back in October, November, because scientists were saying they were seeing it. They were seeing there was something occurring with a pneumonia that was getting reported. But Donald Trump didn't listen to anybody. And here we are today. And so the Rand Paul, back to that thing, going after Fauci, they're going in hard and heavy. And for what it's worth, Wuhan is one of the biggest research places in the whole world, partly because they have the species of bats that they have, and different wildlife and things that actually could impact our future health. It's the largest location to do any of this research, other than like maybe Austin when it comes to bats, but not the different variety of species. China in this Wuhan area has it. And we have to be present. Trump didn't send anybody over there, remember? To
shut it down. That's the part. He was supposed to send people over there to shut it down with the World Health Organization, and he did not. And here's the other thing that you need to remember too when it comes to this, is that they could never figure out where the virus started. They thought it might have originated with bats, and then when it goes back, and they're like, well, we're not sure it originated with bats because we just had a virus in a person jump over to a bat, and the virus is jumping over to animals. So it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? The virus obviously came first, and you cannot tell me that they don't have a cure for it, because oftentimes when viruses are man-made and they're created, they always have the antidote first.
All right. Well, it's interesting. Through the whole of all this going on, we're not hearing a peep from China.
I've read some stuff that China's written about America and their news programs, and they're not very flattering. They're ridiculing the country.
Of course they are.
Because they said Donald Trump trashed it. It's done. It's over. Biden's struggling to put the pieces together. And it's, I can't say they're wrong. I mean,
they can say it. And you know why? Because we owe them a lot of money.
Yeah. And let's not say that, they weren't in on the shindig either, because they
that's what I'm saying.
They benefited from Trump's either deals, side deals, or whatever was going on. But since the behaviors of Trump have never been upstanding or honorable or decent, I'm going with my thing that there was a side deal made. And even if the virus was coming down the pipeline, because many scientists had been speaking about this, and it was just Mother Nature going, I've had it with you jerks. The thing is, they didn't do it. They saw it as an opportunity and not so much as like, oh my God, Trump saw this as an opportunity to make some coins, make some deals,
and kill some Democrats.
And kill some Democrats along the way, because we see how he, had Cuomo fighting and negotiating and Newsom online with these auctions for these ventilators. That was like some craziness. I didn't even know
trying to drive up the price so that he could make a profit.
And everything about that was just disgusting. So that's my whole point about it. Anyone who still supports Trump, it's like, just really, you can like the man, but just be honest about that. That was some deep, dank, dark BS that went on. It was just, everybody was up for the slaughter.
Okay.
Everybody.
People, and this goes back to the whole vaccination thing. It's like we have our people who are talking about, it's like the Tuskegee study. No, the big Tuskegee study was on all of us with the coronavirus. The virus was the study. And if Donald Trump he had very vested interest in letting it go on, because if he didn't, he would have stopped it. He would have stopped it to win the election. And he did not. He knew this was out of control. He knew it was going to cost him the election. He knew early on, when we got to 100,000 dead people, that it was going to cost him the election. Why did he let it continue? Because there had to be money to be gained, and two, it would have come out eventually. It would have come out during the election that he did this. So he had to let it go. He had to let it go. And the unfortunate part is that, remember, and this is the part I want people to hear. This is the part I want Black people to hear. The COVID virus was not a problem for them to even look at or try to fix when they thought it was just Black and brown people dying.
And that was propaganda that was put out. Remember that?
Trump was very big on saying that. And they were, when the virus first hit, all you heard back to back on news programs was, it's more deadly in the Black and Latino communities. And nobody did anything. There were no mask mandates. There was no quarantining. There was nothing. And this is in every state across the board until that first little white lady died.
But at first, remember, they said there was some Russian propaganda stuff that started coming out saying Black people couldn't get it. Yep. And that's how messed up these people are, that then they switch the game. You see, when people are lying, I mean, that was crazy. You don't need to do this. Then he brought up that like crazy voodoo woman. I mean, to get rid of us was a huge objective.
He talked every day for a freaking year, from 5 o'clock to 6:30, every freaking day, to give some kind of update on this, right? No solutions, to answer no questions, just to be on television. He wanted this to be his moment. He wanted to create this and come in and save America, because guess what? I have all the PPE. I have the cure. I have the cure. And remember, he kept pushing it as the cure.
We would have never, God,
he thought that was going to help him win the election, and it backfired, and it killed almost 1 million people.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to go for a break in just a moment. We got a comment here from Real Django. Exactly 45 systematically tore down the pandemic response team. Black Beauty saying, good thing Dr. Fauci did go ahead and keep working on research, or else we may not have the COVID vaccines. Dr. Fauci deserves a bronze star. So on that note, we're going to take a little halftime break. on State of Things with Aisha and Jill. We're going to be back in just a moment. Keep it locked, whether you're watching live or watching on replay. So, ladies, what is going on?
Just that he needs to get it together.
Sick of that. I am sick of it.
Something is seriously wrong with you.
Is that, I mean, why is he still there?
She shouldn't be near Congress.
You need an exorcism, because I don't know what is wrong with you people.
It was so powerful.
And I really wish everybody would stop bowing down to this.
What is he talking about? This makes no sense.
They know they are not the oppressed party, but they love being the superior ones, and they want to flaunt it.
So it was always made political, particularly for people of color and the LGBTQ population.
We end off every episode with a cockroach. This episode's cockroach.
Everything.
Everything?
All the things are going on.
All the things?
Mm-hmm. Hey.
Okay, we are back. Jill is back. Jill is back with us. Aisha will be back in just
Aisha will be through the house.
Aisha will be back with us in just a moment, folks. So we'll just wait for her to come back. But again, we are asking our audience, who do you think is the cockroach for this episode? So we're still taking nominations. We have one. We want some more. So we want some nominations in regards to Cockroach of the Week. But let's continue on with our hit parade. And now, A.G. Garland's son-in-law, education company supports critical race theory, or as Jill would go, Merrick Garland, where are you? So what do you ladies think about this one?
Well, I think that the GOP decided that they needed to find some stuff to set. They were already, when he was testifying, like, oh, we got to have something to go for him about, right? So they did a little digging, and they found that, his daughter's husband is at this foundation, a co-founder of this foundation called the Panorama Education. And so it sells surveys to school districts across the country that focus on the local social and emotion climate. So these surveys are used as a justification for some of the new curriculum that these parents are having, different things with new curriculum. So they basically have dumped all over him and basically started saying that Merrick Garland, when he sent out that letter to the school, the education, the Parent Something Defense Education League jumped in and was outraged by the fact of this sort of, that there's a conflict of interest and blah, 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 because Merrick Garland said these parents were acting like domestic terrorists. So then that's basically what triggered them. Now, what's really interesting is the woman who is a part of the parental education thing, her name is Azra Nomani, and she is about my age. And I actually tweeted her today and said, do you even have school-age children anymore? Because she is in charge of the Pearl Project, which was Daniel Pearl, the journalist. She knew him back in the day and when he had gotten killed by the Taliban. But so she heads up the Pearl Project. But then she created this parental defense league. She's the head of it. But everybody needs to know that this group is funded by the Koch brothers. So, after a while, when you see all these people who've been in Washington for a long ass time, they all know, they're all kind of filtered around. That's why I think we get a little tripped up. There's always, they are the creme de la creme. They all have the jobs. Their kids go and get jobs. You can go and look and see what her son is doing. It's somewhere politically affiliated. It's like it's their own little bubble, and why the people on the right defending these people don't just go, screw you all. You're all in on this, making a buck somehow. Seriously, these grassroots companies funded by the Koch brothers. What grassroots? I don't even think, do the Koch brothers have that? One's dead. That's the only grass he's seeing. But let's just be real. It's like, it's just too divisive. And it's so, once you connect, I always look at the people pointing the fingers and then go, let me go look back. The parents have been acting like crazy people in these town meetings. They've been losing it. They've been saying the craziest stuff in front of their children. This is what's so, like I keep saying, American parents really do not care about their children. They don't, because they wouldn't say half the things they say in front of them. The laws, they want some to eat and they don't want the others to. They want others to get an education and then they don't want the other ones to get it. DC has a bubble, and everybody working in that climate, go look at all their kids. So to hear about Merrick Garland's son having, a founder, it doesn't trip me out. It's only, what did I think he was going to be like, picking up my garbage every week? No, they don't do that. The elites. That's what this is about. And on one level, I'm still perplexed by Merrick Garland because I wasn't impressed by his testimony. I can't get a read on him. And unfortunately, I don't think he's going to do anything. You guys know how I've been feeling. And unfortunately, I think we're in a lot of trouble because if he does not prosecute Trump and his people and what went on, we're in trouble because you cannot have people who are in the system. They're all hens. They're all foxes in the hen house, all of them. You put them all in one job and they all have a conflict of interest. All of them are all conflicted out. Yep. Biden has issues with his son. Yep. This one has issues. We all have issues, but I'm not working side by side with my daughter or getting this one or that, neither are you. None of us are. So they're not us. But if Garland does not take this on with Trump and he wants to be the big man about this school, we're in a lot of trouble because he is a Federalist. And I think he will be as disappointing as Mueller was.
Well,
and you guys know, I love them. I was waxing and waning. Yes, we're going to have justice. And I'm not so sure. I'm really not. And it's really very concerning.
Well, Aisha? I'm looking at this and here's the thing. Again, shiny red object. Okay. They want to point the finger at Merrick Garland. His son-in-law is at the company supports critical race theory. And your point, what does that have to do? Merrick Garland isn't over the Department of Education. He's over the Department of Justice. And so right now they're just screaming anything into the ether that they think will like pop the ears of the people who support them. And, they get on this whole critical race theory thing. It's like, you know what? They don't even know what it is.
No, because wasn't that 2 months ago, the CRT thing?
Exactly. They don't know. They don't even know what it is at this point. They just know that people of color are involved.
Right.
That's it. And it's a way for them to show their racism. It's a way for them to have a catchphrase that they can use. In other words, to say Black history.
Yes.
African history, Latino history, Asian history. They don't know how to say that. So it's just critical race theory. And they don't know what it means. And to say Merrick Garland, we're going after Merrick Garland. Now, for what? Because Merrick Garland is over the Department of Justice. And if he gets off his lazy behind, he will prosecute them too.
But they didn't care when Trump had all his kids going and wheeling and dealing. And how much money did Ivanka make? 217 million or 300 million? I mean, they don't care about that. This is a group of people, as Aisha said, they will pick the catchphrases and they'll hop onto it. they will exploit anything. They will all of a sudden, they started liking Kyrie, whatever his name is. And then before couldn't stand him because, maybe he knelt or whatever. All of a sudden Kyrie, who's like going on about being an indigenous person every damn day. Yet he doesn't want, he does on his page. He's indigenous, right? Isn't that the basketball player who doesn't want because he's got
he's black.
Yeah, the girl. No, I know. But and here's the thing on his thing. It was like, dude, do you know that whatever? That's a whole other topic. But she's right about the whole thing with Merrick Garland, that they reach for everything. And the right wingers, or the people that they hit that button and trigger in their heads, the ones with the lobotomies, to go out, send a tweet, go do it. They automate.
And then it's funny because you have people on the street like the Daily Show. Trevor Noah does this, and he's done it before, and a lot of other people have gone through and asked them, well, what is critical race theory? Exactly. So why are you against it? Well, because I don't want my children learning about critical race theory. But what is critical race theory? It's just bad.
Just bring the machines. Just bring the machines on. We don't have to just bring the AI and let them, I think the artificial intelligence is just going to turn around and go, these people are so damn dumb. I think we should just take them out of here, because unfortunately, we're really, it just shows we're not evolving. And we've got groups of people, like we have shackles and lead shoes on in the swimming pool, and we can't get up because they're so stuck in their ways. And that has to do with, by the time Biden cuts down this bill to appeal to cinema and Manchin, we are literally looking at what else is in the bill. I am actually they took out the child care. They don't want this. They don't want the coal. What's left? Oh, that we can't tax the rich people. Not a damn thing. Biden can sit up there and grin all he wants and try to tell us, one thing I do like about him is he was really straight up about that gas situation and how bad it's going to be until next year. But the reality is that gas situation is happening globally right now. And I really want somebody to tell me why. It's across the board. It's every country. Everybody has this gas situation. Right. But, then it's so interesting about this whole supply chain thing, too, because I was watching something the other day briefly. And do you know how many tankers and containers we accidentally lose in the ocean just in years, throughout the years? Because they started to ship these huge containers. They got bigger and bigger and bigger. And when they would hit waves and stuff, containers would just drop to the bottom of the sea. We have so much karma to pay back. We did not take care of this world, this planet. And if we miss that deadline on the climate change, which I kind of feel that we might have already, because people are working with this static mindset that Mother Nature is on hold, like, okay, I'm giving you. I think she just let it all go, or I'm going to give her a non-gender binary thing.
How they kind just of said, you.
Yes, I think,
You're learning.
Yes, an old dog can learn some new tricks, but unfortunately, we've got to see some results from the DOJ, and not right when they're getting ready to go on a vacation, because that's what always happens. Thanksgiving's about to come up again, or are we not calling it Thanksgiving anymore? Friendsgiving. I call it Friendsgiving. Okay. You guys had your Thanksgiving.
Yes, we had it. Yeah, we celebrated a few weeks ago, so we're good.
Yeah, and that's another thing. We're going to get ready, because we're going to hear about the pilgrims and the plague and smallpox.
I already saw the war on Christmas.
Yeah, all right. Okay. So that's just my thing.
All right, well, let's move on. Next conversation topic. How many children and animals are being exploited for likes and monetization on social media?
Yes. I don't know if you guys have noticed it or felt it going on. First of all, I feel like I'm walking through a bazaar in Morocco. Buy this, buy this, buy this. Hey, lady, you want this, you want this, you want that. That's what Instagram feels like. It used to be so chill just to go and look at some pictures and see my friends and do funny stuff. But once they brought in that algorithm economy thing and everybody's on e-commerce, and I mean, I'm afraid to even put up a t-shirt, a Prince t-shirt, and sell it, because it's really become crazy.
Yep. But Jill, let's look at it this way. North America is not a democracy. North America is a capitalistic democracy.
Oh, absolutely. But that's where the rub comes. Because if you're looking for a caring community, I mean, or that's why it's so disingenuous. I looked at some things with animals doing things, and I'm like, oh, this is really cute and whatever. And then I saw something today that was like a rabbit, really feared for its life, and somebody was filming it. And I thought to myself, wow, I don't know what people are doing behind the scenes to get the content that they're really pushing for. And I'm a little bit hesitant and a little bit more reticent about giving my time and my likes to it, because I think it encourages people to be completely mad. And they've got their kids saying crazy things. And I feel that your children's rights might be violated if you are monetizing off of them and you go viral. I think the money should go into a trust fund for your children. I don't believe that this should be occurring. I think that the union should be involved, because social media is becoming very performance based. These are performances we're watching. These are setups. These are scripted events for the most part now, because there are people who teach classes on how to get more likes on TikTok. I know a guy who was a musician, and when he started putting like stuff all over his pizzas and just making really yucky food, his music was getting 100 likes. He like now makes a ton of money just eating the worst things possible. But that's my point, is that I don't feel that a child growing up would grow up and go, why was my life exposed on social media like that? You have no right. You had no right. We saw what happened to Michael Jackson. I mean, let's just really have a little bit more self-control and respect for some of the children. They're minors and they need to be protected. You can't just put people's stuff out there. I don't care. They are children and they need to be protected. And I think the unions need to come in. And I also think that it needs to be regulated. The same for animals, because I don't really know what people are doing to get those animals, to film them, for whatever. And if it is legit, then I think that a percentage of the money should go to education platforms for children or for animals. Or, I really do. Because I don't feel that at the end of the day, 20 years fast forward, mark my words, you will see some stories about what people did to terrorize their children with this nonsense. Growing up with a camera in your face like the Truman Show is pretty interesting.
Okay, so Jen says totally agree with you, Jill. Aisha, what do you have to say?
I don't really care about people.
My point is, I think we're just exploiting to the level of like people say the craziest things. This is why when there is a protest, there are some people who are solely seeking attention, narcissism, all of those things. And then there are some people who should be the spokesman in the group to make a sound point. And then you got somebody on the side who's just dressed a little crazier, who gets more of the attention and totally derails the whole thing. Just derails what your achievement or what your intention behind. Like we were talking about the trans Netflix protests. What, and it's not, there's something wrong with not having it regulated. And I don't see what would be wrong with that. We got everybody, I don't know.
Tamara saying, Tamara is saying people will do anything and everything to be famous. There are no limits today. Everyone has, quote, a brand, unquote.
It's ridiculous.
Everyone wants to be famous for simply breathing. Black Beauty saying, where does the madness end with America's greed, filled frenzy for monetization, even on social media platforms? Welcome to the modern gladiator age. So nefariously gross. Just gross.
It is. And I'm telling you, I can feel it when I go, and a few friends, we've been chatting about this. Like, I don't know what's coming into my feed, but I literally feel like, I'm being hawked for something. And they have a lot of nerve, getting upset when I tell somebody, that goes against the community standards. Well, how about you guys get some community standards about the exploitation of children? Oh, you don't think that's considered trafficking? You're trafficking something through the regions across the globe. America has the worst privacy rules in the whole world when it comes to social media. Germany is tight. France is tight. Italy as well. They hardly let Google go around and take pictures of their landscapes so people can find them. But not America. Hey,
Europe has been much more aggressive on capping.
And they're in court every day with Google. Every day in Germany. They are hammering them. And you have to, because social, as Barack Obama made a very important comment, these are not just innocent, platforms. They are media outlets. And they need to be under the restriction and the regulations that comes into. They went past little newsletters a long time ago, and they need to be regulated.
Yeah. I do agree with that part.
Okay. Lots of commentary for Aisha on that one. So what I'm just going to add here, Cinnamon Canela goes, I think those kids will grow up to crave attention 25 hours a day.
Do. That, put it this way, the first generation to have gone there already does. It's like you can't pull them away from making videos. It's like everybody sees making these videos and going viral as a viable career option.
And then Cinema Canela adds future politicians.
Yeah, but I know that in the world that what goes around comes back around. And there will be a move back to people pulling away from it. And it'll just be garbage land. Because if real brands want to move into that arena and continue on, and really monopolize it more, it's too much. It's just too much. It's garbage. It's absolute garbage because they're paying for it.
Jill thinks it will go back. I don't. I disagree. I think that it's going
I don't mean it's going to go back. I think
it's going to be worse. We're like looking at a wasteland.
Well, I think you're right about that. But I do feel that there will be people opting out, because I'm about to opt out.
And they'll be older. They'll be older, but
I don't know. I've seen a lot of younger people opting out. I have seen that.
I've seen some, but not to the degree that I think that you're talking about, because think of it, the majority of their life has been spent online. They have more friends online than we have in person. We come from a generation and generations of, you know what, you want to talk to your friend, your mother says you can't talk to your little friend on the phone because I'm waiting for a phone call. You have to get up and go to your friend's house and hope that their mother lets you play with them and lets them come outside and talk to them. And it's like, it's not the same. Everyone who's a friend of mine knows this about me. I am the worst at keeping in touch with people. I do not call anybody. Okay. I don't do it. And Jill will know this because there are times I forget to call Jill. I'm the worst person at that, but I am of that mindset where it's like, I like face-to-face conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I like sitting and talking with people and gauging their emotions and seeing their, how they react to things. And, that's why I'm like, my best friend here, she knows if I haven't called her in like a month, she'll call me and just say, I just calling to see that you're still alive, because that's that. But these kids now, their entire world is on this.
Well, then they're trash, because the girl who got raped on the train the other day in Philly for 30 minutes and all they did was film them. They even had the audacity to come back and say, we only filmed for the police so they could get the guy.
And not one person stopped it.
The reality is nobody stopped it. If that's where Gen Z is taking us, they can go straight to hell.
Okay.
Hell.
I'm just gonna catch up. There were some comments we missed on the NIH story. Cinnamon Canela goes, and now Russia has a fourth strength of COVID-19.
They do, Delta Plus.
And then also, yes, I've been hearing about that. And Black Beauty's going, I am totally with the ladies. As I as of well, great concern for the future of our democracy. USA at this point has two choices: support or prolong democracy.
I'm not sure that the people in this country want democracy. Actually, when I look at the behaviors, I don't know if that constitutes democracy. Not what democracy really is. I think everybody wants their way, but they don't want to bend the other way. And that's why we don't have it. Because all of the actions and behaviors of me, what about my group? What about my group? I'm the wheelchair group. I'm this group. I'm this. I identify with this. We're not going to get there because nobody's willing to make come in the middle. It's called compromise. This is why people don't have relationships. They don't know about compromise. They don't know about it. And that's okay. They can all be alone. I don't really give a shit.
The other part of that too is that
maybe they need an authoritarian leader. Maybe
that's
America needs it.
Remember, 75 million people
maybe
were
they
very
need to be
content with an
told.
authoritarian leader.
Absolutely.
They were very happy and they wanted it again.
Yeah.
But
well, they're going to get it.
Well, I mean, isn't that why the Republican Party becomes so effective? Is because they don't have the diversity.
Yep.
And the diversity of opinion. No, they do not. Not the diversity of thought or opinion. It's like the Democrats have such a diverse, spectrum of ideas and the base. You have people who are far this way, people who are far that. In the Republican Party, they are a monolith. They speak with one voice,
nothing like unity,
one voice, and they pretty much all look alike.
And when you're unified, the unified front wins.
Yeah,
always.
All right. Well, let's go. So we were asking people tonight for a cockroach, and we did have someone offer a cockroach. So let me scroll. I'm just going to scroll up. It was way a long time ago. So Jen says, I would like to nominate for cockroach the folks who are still refusing to get vaccinated. We all need to work together to overcome this pandemic, and some just outright refuse. My grandparents were around in 1918 and barely made it through the first pandemic at the tender age of 18. My grandmother did lose her twin brother to that pandemic. So this issue cuts very deep for me. My family is very large, and thank God my grandparents did survive at that time.
True, because Jen wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's a miracle. And she's right. I mean, I think that the misinformation, disinformation, the fears, the selfishness, I don't know what, she's right. They should be cockroaches. But at some point, this is going to be survival of the fittest. And it is like a gladiator race. We're really getting ready to go there, especially with the Delta Plus happening. I think that the virus in itself, there is something very spiritual about this. There is something now coming into the aspect of, the virus wants to do what it wants to do, and it wants to eradicate the problems that keep it. And also it's a feeding frenzy as well. But it's so funny that the virus is almost synonymous with the virus of the mind in the world. So it's pretty apropos. It's, I don't even know if Shakespeare could have written this.
Well, it's interesting. Up here in Ontario, in the province I live in here in Canada, they announced on Friday they have a STEP program. So they are now, as of Monday, you'll be allowed, gyms and restaurants will have full capacity, stuff to wear your mask inside. And then they're targeting for March of next year to get rid of people wearing masks indoors. So we'll see. The government said, that's a tentative. It depends what happens during the winter. But they're saying so they're saying we're looking at least March at the earliest, where people, if everything goes good, people will not have to wear a mask in indoor facilities. So we're just now getting full capacity in restaurants just now. And the funny thing is, many restaurants have said, hey, we've lost half our revenue already this year.
Well, it's
and that's
so
the problem
weird
with this country, and that's why we're not any close to getting this under control, is because people were like, after a month of being quarantined, we're like, oh, the economy, the money, this and that. We need to go back to making money. We need to go back to this and this. And Trump thought he could win on the economy. So what does he do? Let's open everything up. And it just planted the virus, thought he could make it shoot up the economy. And the whole thing, like I said.
And now everybody has decided, I don't want to go back to work. I think I'm just going to sell flip-flops online. I'm going to just be in e-commerce, or I'm just going to go for it and fulfill my dreams. But what's so interesting is that there's a lot of more deeper layers that are happening in all of this with our people and the brains and thinking and the mental health issues that are going on, and people who can't be alone, and then people who only want to be alone, and then people who it's really just bizarre. It is totally unraveling, but like I said, we just got to try to hang in there the best we can. But I got to tell you guys something funny. So Dr. Vibe, you'll appreciate this. It says a lot about American people. So my husband plays tennis, right? And he's pretty modest about his rating. There is an international rating, right? It's like people say I'm a 3.5 or a 4. Yep. I think five is the highest, really, when you're just having the conversation. So you go and you sign up to play tennis with people in America, right? Because he's from Europe. What are you, Hubs? I'm a 3.5. He goes and tells people, they're like, okay, I'm a 4. Let's go play. He goes out there, kicks their butts. It's embarrassing, like 6'1", 6'0". Yep. And he comes back and he goes, I just want to play with somebody better so I can get better, because I'm playing with these people who can't. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I said, you're going to have to make yourself higher, because I said, American people do that. They will overestimate. I'm a 10. I'm a 9. I'm a 10. And it's really true. It's happened so many times with him, even at work, even in jobs, the ethics, like when you're talking to people when they're working here in America, you do 150%. Like my girlfriend who took a job in Germany, she's American. She said, I don't, it's business. She goes, and they had some American person there who didn't last like 2 weeks. She's like, because they couldn't function. It's like, but when you're done, you're done. It's like, you can't call people on the weekends like, hey, do you got those files? That happened. But there's really something that's happened in our country with the work ethic, with the way we, I don't know. I mean, people are going to their jobs with all these things in their heads. And it is called do the freaking work and go home. But something's changed. And as one of the comments had said, people want to be famous. They want to do this. They want to believe that people are making $15,000 a day online. There's a problem with this country, overestimation of itself. And it's really scary.
I think, again, that brings another full show topic, American ethics, and abilities
ethics, and quality. Ethics. And quality, because we don't buy quality anymore. We don't even hire quality. We don't even listen to music that's quality.
Yeah. All right.
We listen to canned music. It is fabricated, manufactured crap. And we're all like, oh, wow. I mean, seriously, yes, it's another conversation, but it's really for real. Everything is so artificial, and it's not intelligent.
I think we're gonna have to do AI, but we're gonna have to think of another word for intelligence than the I. Oh, maybe insipid.
AI. Artificial insipids.
Artificial intelligence versus actual intelligence.
Right.
Hold on to that. Remember that. I think we should have definitely a conversation about that. On that note, ladies, we gonna end because you're on fire tonight, and Aisha's at another remote location. Aisha's becoming our traveling correspondent. South Carolina.
Jet setter.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, the jet setter. Looking so
I'm in
sharp.
Maryland.
Just night in Maryland, looking so sharp in her orange.
I know,
folks. That's sharp. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going. Okay, let me just get some last comments here. Cinema Canela says, I need to move to Canada. Yeah, we also have coming in the near future, vaccine passports are coming too. It's Black Beauty saying, at the rate my country is going futuristically, we will still be welcome. Will we still be welcome to participate in student exchange programs, UNICEF, etc.? America's thirsty for caveman mentality. Makes us a pariah. And Tamara saying, don't even get me started with music.
Yeah, terrible.
DJ King, these are so fine, I just can't get over it. Well, we appreciate that. From Twitch, wonderful. And Jen saying, great show as always. So, ladies, you hit it out of the park again tonight. Oh, and that's another thing. The other day I was told, by the way, don't call me a lady, call me a woman. So now I'm thinking, what
I like being called a lady.
I do. So what do I call? I'm going, okay. I don't know.
Like Aisha said, it's the intention behind some things. I think we kind of know that, all that. You could call me the Queen of Sheba, but however you treat me is the most important.
Okay. Well, as usual, we like to say thank you to
and
the
you're
ladies.
Always so kind.
You pay a price for being a nice person.
You're a stand-up they, or a stand-up they. Stand-up person.
Okay. Well, as always, I'd like to say thank you to Aisha, our roving correspondent. And roving, I can't even say that word. People are going to say, what does that mean? I can't even, I don't even, whatever. I can't even go.
Jet setter.
I know.
Okay, and DG King is saying, my brother went on a date and his date got so upset he called her a woman, so you can't win.
Oh my gosh.
And Cinema goes, yeah, call hey you and see who responds. Oh my.
And my grandmother would have cringed at even hey. Oh, yeah. Hey, you, hey. Yeah, lost it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
As always, want to get the final say. Well, we just want to sign off here. We're going to say, Jill, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, I am on Twitter, as you can see, Jill D. Jones, and then on Instagram, Jill Jones Music. Wonderful. And on Facebook, I think it's the same.
Absolutely. And what we're going to do is I'm going to get to the lady in orange.
Mm-hmm.
Was that for pumpkin? Was that because of Halloween? You got your Halloween outfit?
It's like fluorescent, kind of.
Okay.
Oh, I like it a lot.
Nice.
You can reach me at Aisha Staggers on Twitter or AK Staggers on Instagram. And, I try to leave Facebook alone.
Okay. Excellent. And myself, I am Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the winning Dr. Vibe show. And blessed to be in the middle of these two ladies. Again, you can take that any way you want, because obviously anything we say is going to be held to scrutiny. The best way to get a hold of me, go to my website, drvibeshow.com. Other than that, probably Twitter at drvibeshow. Like to thank everyone who helped make this an epic conversation. We had so many people on tonight, so thank you so much. Want to just shout out Cinnamon DG King from Twitch. That's one of the platforms we broadcast on. Black Beauty, Jen as always, Real Django, thank you for stopping by. Daquita, I hope I got that right. If I got it wrong, it's my head, not my heart. So you can watch replays of these epic conversations if you want to go to the Dr. Vibe YouTube page or the Dr. Vibe Facebook page. Want to encourage you to subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Facebook page, because that will tell you when upcoming shows are coming up. You get notified, not only these ones, but other epic conversations that I host. As always, I like to end off with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourself grace always. And be kind. And work. Let's all just work on being a better human each and every day. If we could do that, I think the world would be a better place. So again, huge thanks. All things great. We'll see you next Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. State of Things with Aisha and Jill. God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith and walk good.